Gordon Ramsay, how are you?
I'm very well indeed, thank you, buddy. How are you?
Well, you are smart, and this is why you're smart. You're big over here, you're big in America, you're big everywhere, you're a cook, you're a chef, you're a TV star, you're a multimillionaire, you've got a successful family, you've got everything, haven't you?
Very lucky. Yeah, a lot of hard work has gone into it. And when you get there, of course, you've got to work even harder to maintain it. So, yeah, I do pinch myself, but I'm not very good at stopping and looking behind me. I'm too busy moving forward.
Do you have any time to enjoy anything you're doing? Because presumably you're on a plane 1 minute, in a car the next minute. Do you actually have a moment to yourself?
Do you know what? I mean, it's a good question, Alex. Yeah. My time to myself is limited. Very little. You know, I'm incredibly selfish with my work. Everywhere I go, I'm obsessed with getting it right, and I hate failure. We've had a tough opening in New York. We've come through the doldrums in terms of, you know, winning 2 Michelin stars last week and number one best newcomer for Zagat. So I go in search of pressure, and once I've got the pressure, I handle it brilliantly, and then I make sure that my staff are behind me 110%. So the time I spend on my own is little, but it's quality.
It's so fascinating, having read your first book, to see how this nearly didn't happen. There's almost a serendipity and an element of luck in your failure that's made you this huge star, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. You learn from your mistakes in life, and you know, opening restaurants has got nothing to do with vanity. Although there's a huge population out there that think it's a glamorous industry, but it's not. It's graft and it's live, and it's you've got to be good to survive. Otherwise, you're history. Not just history in terms of closure, but financially bankrupt. So I've been close to the brink, and you know, at 40 years of age now, after cooking for 21 years, everyone sees a certain Gordon Ramsay, but I'd like to think that they would understand a lot more if they read the book in terms of, you know, the risk. And that's the secret, isn't it? You know, if you're prepared to take a risk and, you know, bust your balls to make it, live in rented accommodation and struggle to make money, and then once you've made money, you can't spend it because you've got to plough it into keeping the business open, and it's got nothing to do with you personally, and you've got to keep on hitting the business with the money because you've got 55 staff to pay, 55 staff responsibilities with their boyfriends, their girlfriends, their rents, their mortgages, their tax, and you have to make it.
Do you ever get chance to pick up a spatula other than for the TV programmes? Because it seems to me you're everywhere other than in the kitchen at the moment.
Yeah, it's a good question. I'm a control freak. I was in Chelsea this morning. We had to be there literally 7:30 in the morning. Now, I was there this morning because they wanted their shots done together for a Christmas photo. And in amongst doing all the shots for the Christmas photos, we finished 2 dishes together. When you're not on the hot plate, I get agitated because, you know, it's like sat in the middle of air traffic control where you're coordinating and dictating to 25 chefs, and then you've got to exuberate the brigade by you injecting energy into them. So I miss it when I'm away. So when I'm back, you know, honestly, I'm like a dog with 9 widgers, and I'm all over it like a rash, and then I'm manic because I need that adrenaline injection to keep me going. And that's what creates that little bit of speciality that lifts an average restaurant into a superb restaurant, having that magical touch. So if I haven't got that and I can't get close to that, then Gordon Ramsay's finished. So I need to cook.
How easy is it for you to find someone who's as dedicated and as passionate about food as you are?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, I search long and hard every day for talent, and then once I've found the talent, I nurse the talent. Once it's nursed, then it's exposed. Once it's exposed and they're sort of stripped of everything they know, and they're, you know, against the wall and standing there, you know, insecure, feeling inadequate, then we build them again. So cooking is all about emotions, and, you know, it is the most insecure job to have ever. You're standing in a kitchen, you're with a bunch of foreigners, you can't speak the language, and by the way, you have to take an ingredient, make it into something, charge money for it, and then be successful on that dish. It's hard, very hard graft. You don't get there by working 6.5, 7 hours a day. So I can tell you who's going to make it and who's not going to make it after being with someone for half an hour.
As soon as that?
As soon as that, yeah. In terms of their touches, their insight, the way they season things, the way they hold things, the way they feel about that particular ingredient. And I like to see them go on that journey I went on. The upset in football, the cruciate ligament tear, the smashed cartilage, and all that stuff was a huge setback in my life. Once I got into cooking, I never, ever wanted to be in a situation, Alex, where I was faced with an ingredient and I never knew what to do with it to the best. So that journey is extraordinary.
Something that saddens me about you, I saw you on Leno the other night, and I saw you on Hell's Kitchen USA the other night. I wonder whether half the viewers realise how acclaimed you are at what you do, because your success in TV has overtaken that, and there are so many other people on TV who are not any good at what they do. Does that bother you that you want to remind them occasionally, hang on, I've got all these amazing restaurants that are so well regarded, if not the most regarded?
Yeah, it's frustrating, to be honest. It's a very good point, because you go on something like Leno and you're the lead guest and you're on the sofa, then he doesn't take it seriously what you're trying to teach him, and so it's a kick in the balls in terms of not that level of integrity and respect for what you do. So the TV is one thing, the restaurants are another thing. Where does my heart lie? My heart lies in the restaurants, because one day if the TV's not there, all I'm going to do is just cook my heart out. But at the same time, cooking on television is easy. It's not difficult. So when I meet the fellow celebrity chefs that say, oh my God, I'm having a neck massage before I go on Ready, Steady, Cook, because, this is a very stressful job. We know how to cook with our eyes closed. So we shouldn't ham it up that it's that difficult. It's not that difficult. Cooking in a restaurant with 150 people coming in for dinner, segmented in a way that everyone's coming in every 15 minutes, is mass pressure. And of course, cooking on TV, you're doing it once or twice. Then you've got a long shot, your wide shot, your close-up. So on the back of a talented producer, they make you look good. So you can't be good at your job in front of the producer, then forget it. So when I talk to young chefs about cooking today, and I said, what do you want to do? I want to be a TV chef. I said, right, do me a favour, take off your whites and piss off. Do you know what I mean? You haven't got a job here, because you don't come into this game to become famous. So I'm a real chef before a TV chef. I hate the word TV celebrity chef, because cooking in the Premier League of restaurants where we are is all about understanding, finesse, palate control, and pushing yourself to the absolute extreme.
I can imagine what went through your mind when the producer of the Leno show said, you're the first guest, you're the main guest, you're the biggest star of the #1 late night show. Can you cook an omelette on TV? You must have just wanted to punch him in the face.
Yeah, I felt like sticking a pot noodle up his backside, because it was a embarrassment. And it's nice to go on there, and it's the fourth time having been on the show, but It's a tough call, because I'm a chef, and I always will be a chef. A TV personality I cringe at. I get to do my job on television, and it's got nothing to do with the camera. Everyone says, how can you come across so confident? But it's got nothing to do with the camera. I'm talking to a friend or a sous chef, and that's how I treat it. So it's nice and rewarding and refreshing, but my heart lies on the stove, not on television.
And I fully understand why you would say yes to doing that programme, because of the exposure it gives you to allow you to do other things.
Yeah, it's part and part of the parcel, unfortunately. You've got to go on that milk tour, and Kitchen Nightmares has become a huge success in America. And so, I got issued with horrendous writs 3 months ago on the back of a suggested fabricated, actors and actresses in the dining room to ham it up to how bad the food was, that I'd brought in, mouldy food. I mean, are they stupid? The sad thing about it, Alex, is that when we do Kitchen Nightmares, first of all, they know I'm coming. B, they've had to clean, 2 weeks before I got there. And C, I'm let off the leash. There's no cue cards. There's no auto cue. There's no producer telling you where to go, what fridge to look in. I'm like a Rottweiler. I rock up at the door. I lift my leg up. I go for a quick pee. I shake my ass on the floor. And then I just get in there. I'm let off the lead, and I sniff them out like a sniffer dog. I got put against the wall once, about 7 years ago, coming back from Prague in Czechoslovakia, at Heathrow, and there was a problem on the plane, and so there's 2 or 3 suspect packages. Anyway, we all got pushed against the wall, and these sniffer dogs crawled all over us, jumped, and I was petrified, because they were big dogs, Alsatians, and they were furious, and all the police were armed with these machine guns, and it was horrific. It was like something out of a movie. And that's what I'm like when I go into a restaurant. Let me off the lead, let me dig deep, let me give this place a great shake, let me turn it around, turn the menu around, turn the chef's attitude around, turn the owner's attitude around, and let me put it back on the map. Then criticise me. Don't criticise me on my way.
As you know, I'm one of the world's greatest interviewers, Gordon. You've heard the rumours, haven't you?
Absolutely, without a doubt. Do you know what? You're fluent. There's one dodgy thing, though.
Yes.
You've got red hair, which always reminds me of Anthony Roll Thompson. But you've got quite a cool hairstyle.
Thank you very much for sparing the time to talk to me, by the way, because firstly, you must be very busy, and B, you must have someone better to talk to.
Not at all. Trust me. You're a foodie, which helps. I can tell you like your food because you're a bit of a chunky monkey, and it's nice. But serious message, Alex, you don't have to finish the plate. It's always polite to leave a little bit.
Chunky monkey?
Yeah, it's the sort of, listen, I was 18 stone once when I ran my first marathon, and it's all going pear-shaped when you come back and the kids have gone home, the wife's gone home, and it's dark. And then someone said, hey, did you pick those cones up along the way round? I got to Cutty Sark at mile 6, absolutely shattered. So, I love my food. Unfortunately, I put weight on easily, so I have to watch my weight, and that's why I run 3 nights a week, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, religiously, in a way that I put a rucksack on, fill it up with potatoes, finish my service, you graze, and then I just run. I bolt.
I thought I was sylph-like till you brought it up. I'd never noticed that I was clinically obese. Thank you for pointing that out.
No, listen. We've got a slight problem in this country in terms of lack of control with the way we eat and how we eat. And I prefer the Asian ethic of eating, grazing. Eating 6 or 7 times a day, but small portions of it. And it's like when we're in the kitchen, you don't sit down and eat dinner before you start cooking. You don't go to have a sort of ravioli lobster or the most amazing, fillet steak with pommes puree and truffled mashed potatoes. Far from it. So we graze. We have to pick. So by the time I get to midnight, I'm full. To burn that off, I run. That helps gain the appetite, and I feel so much better for it at 2 o'clock in the morning.
So what you're saying is I'm a big fat pig.
You have to be very careful, because at 33, 34, 35, the Simon Cowell boobies, they stay with you. It'll be difficult to lose.
Gordon Ramsay's noticed my man breasts and bingo wings. What a thrill. Last night I went for a dinner in London and I had 3 langoustines, £36 for 3 langoustines. Can you possibly justify that in this country?
No, I mean, langoustine being Dublin Bay prawns, of course. Huge succulent prawns, but I mean, 12 quid a prawn. I mean, that's, for a nation that thrives on prawn cocktails, that's an expensive prawn. Do you know what? I lived in France for 3 years, and there you grow up with that level of appreciation in terms of it's impregnated. The most amazing dinner I ever had once was in a little place called Saint-Raphael, just outside Cannes, and I had this amazing salad of goat's cheese, then I had this rabbit stew with a polenta, creamy polenta, then I had a nice slice of brie, then from that I had a tarte tatin, and everything was served on the same plate. There was no pomposity, there was just no clearing of plates, no crumbing down, but the flavours were amazing. And then I went out after that dinner and sold Christmas trees in the local courtyard to sort of gain money to sort of pay for my lodgings for the next week. So, in this country, there's a level of snobbery now around food. We've got this boom of organics because it's going to make you feel better, and, it looks better in your basket because you're travelling through Gloucestershire and you're buying from an organic farm. Well, we have organic Pizza Huts now on the King's Road. So from a chef's point of view, it's really frustrating. Organic is nice, there's no two ways about that, but the traceability and the level of integrity applied to cooking has to be all about flavour and nothing more. Not junk, not quick. And, fast food doesn't have to be junk food. That's the difference.
I was lucky last night. It was a review I didn't pay. If I'd have paid and the bill came to nearly £300 for 2 of us, I would have been absolutely heartbroken. Why do I have to pay that much money in this country to get an amazing meal?
Yeah, £300. Can I say that's a lot of money? If my mum knew, that you had spent £300 on dinner last night, that would do her for 2 months shopping down in Bridgewater in Taunton. 300 quid is ridiculous. There's no two ways about that. However, there are some fantastic neighbourhood bistros and brasseries, and now fantastic pubs locally. So can you imagine what you could buy, honestly, for 300 quid in terms of ingredients? That's enough food there to last you 6 weeks. £300. I mean, that's a joke. To feel hungry at the back of it, I'd ask my money back, to be honest. It
just staggers me that I came out thinking I'd have rather have had fish and chips before and only spent £5.50. Is food getting better in this country then?
Do you know what? We're obsessed with spending money on good food because it makes us feel better at the end of the day. I've been to Atelier de Robuchon 2 or 3 times. The place is a phenomenal place. There's no two ways about that. But have we got room in this city to warrant that kind of expenditure and feel hungry at the back of it? The situation is not the same in Vegas. I enjoyed my dinner in Vegas. There's no two, but like you said, half the price. Over here now, we're getting somewhat carried away. I don't know how they all survive because, how many times a week are you going to do that? Like you said, if you were paying for that personally, you wouldn't be buying it. But the fact is, for a review, it's quite. It's quite hurtful to think that my sister, works as a care nurse and she earns, £15,000 a year. She would never, ever spend 300 quid with her and her husband for dinner. Ever. Maybe for 6, but not for 2.
Where do we go then for good food now? Pub food is microwaved. There's the high end where we're paying £300 for a meal for 2. Is there anything now in the middle that is reasonable and good? Where can you recommend going? Not necessarily naming names, but is there that food available in this country?
Yeah, it is there. There's no two ways about that, but you've got to search high and low. I think the Good Food Guide does an amazing sort of search on good food in local areas. The secret is to stay away from all the flash places because because 90% of them are full of sort of celebrations and corporates, and so somebody else is paying. So you're dining out on somebody else's dollar. So the neighbourhood bistro brasserie. There's an amazing restaurant at the top of Thrift Street in Soho called Arbutus. It's a friend of mine who runs it, but it's like 21 quid, 22 quid for 3 courses, and the food is fabulous. So you've got to search high and low, and don't be scared when you make a reservation. Ask the average price for dinner and take it from there.
The point of my programme today is for people to find out more about you. Obviously, you've got the new book out at the moment, Playing with Fire, which goes into great detail about your business side. I want to find out about you, though. What were you like as a child?
As a child, always enjoying my food. I mean, honestly, I could eat like a horse. And I was determined, emotional. My mum became my sort of best friend early on, and incredibly active, very sportive, always out the house. I suppose also on the back of sort of my father's sort of stance with his music and playing his lead guitar and singing country and western music, it bored the pants off me. Then the steel guitar came in, and that made me even more cringeworthy. So I was the kind of guy that was dying to get out of the house. Obsessed with football, loved staying fit, and would rarely be at home, to be honest. If I wasn't at home, I'd be around a friend's house kicking a ball up close, against the wall.
Can you remember the first moment where you became interested in food?
I can really. We were going up the M6 from Daventry. We lived in several addresses. It wasn't the most sort of pleasant of upbringings in terms of settled. We were always moving around every 18 months. Anyway, we're in Daventry and we're travelling up on the M6 up to Port Glasgow to go and see our gran. And Mum had made some bread and butter pudding. Because we were running late, we had to take it in the car. So I just remember sat with this tray of bread and butter pudding, and as we went into petrol stations, motorway service stations, they would get the drinks, and we weren't allowed to go out in these cafes because they were too expensive. So we used to sit sort of munching away on this tray of bread and butter pudding, and that's when I started to really seriously enjoy what the comfort of her rustic home cooking was all about. So that was that, and then after that would be like a sort of the next time round would be like the most amazing soup, but it was like a ham hock soup with barley. And you think of how good barley is for it. We don't use that today. It's like dumplings, on the back of the pasta phenomenon, and how everyone's excited about gnocchi and tagliatelle and tortellinis and raviolis and spaghetti. No one eats dumplings anymore. So a lamb stew, a ham hock soup with barley and dumplings. I mean, that was fantastic stuff.
How did that then manifest into you wanting to be a chef? It's not an easy job by any stretch of the imagination. Every chef I've ever interviewed works about 20 hours a day, literally.
No, it wasn't an easy life at all. To be honest, food found me by way of an accident. The smashed cartilage and then the horrific injury, cruciate ligament. When you're released from your dream, and I remember coming out of that office and absolutely holding it in, about to bawl my eyes out the fact that I'd just been released by Rangers, my dream. You start getting frustrated with your girlfriend. She gets frustrated with you. She calls you irritable. I call her irritable, and then we separate. And then Mum and Dad are going through a divorce at the same time. Where'd you go? I went to see a careers officer back down in Banbury, and then I got into a HND foundation course. It was a special course, a foundation course in catering, and that's how it started. I couldn't afford to go full-time as a student. We didn't have the money. I needed to work. So I worked in the industry in a little place outside Stratford-on-Avon called the Rocks and the House Hotel. And then I went to college 1 day a week and worked 7 days a week. And going to college was like a day off because it was so easy, out of the realms of running this country pub, restaurant, hotel. So that's when I got excited. And at the age of 18, 19, I was excited because I knew what I was cooking at the time was so wrong, yet I couldn't wait to do it so right.
Going back to a few things you've said, once you'd got the dream of getting the Rangers contract, how did you manage to turn that disaster into something positive? Most people, and I've interviewed footballers in their early 20s who have suddenly had the dream crushed in the same way that yours was. Mm-hmm. What gave you the strength to want to fight on and find another path and not just give up on life?
Yeah, I think it was on the back of my parents' divorce, and it was going really pear-shaped between Mum and Dad, and Mum was being badly treated. So I used their situation, combined with my hurt and upset in football, to completely annihilate myself. And you can't submerge yourself in your father's problems, because then it reflects on you later on in life. And I was never going to become a burden for his level of incompetence, in a way that what he was acting and doing and how bad he was becoming, it was never going to affect me. So I wanted to get out of it completely, and I took one good look at myself and said, look, now it's do or die. You get out and you do it, or you're going to sit here and suffocate in amongst their level of depression. And God bless her, Mum was strong, determined, and she was the one that said, look, do yourself a favour, disappear. Things are going really bad between your father and I. He's not a pleasant guy, and he resents you more than he resents me. Get out the house and basically get lost. And that's how I found it and turned it around. Didn't turn to drink, didn't turn to drugs, just found myself in food, and then worked like a donkey to get what I did today.
It's amazing how there was no self-pity there at all. That is remarkable.
No, I mean, even when things go wrong today, Alex, I don't sit there and massage. I don't massage myself. I don't massage my chefs. I don't massage the management. It's straight to the point. Look, that was dreadful. That's not good enough. Let's move on. Don't question me in the middle of it. Talk to me at the end of the evening, but don't dare ever disrupt me from what I'm trying to tell you now. Listen, absorb it, and that's the secret of becoming good at what you're doing. Having the tenacity to listen and take it, absorb it, and move on. It's nothing personal.
That one day a week that you spent at college, were you always extraordinary in your understanding of food and your passion for it compared to the other students?
Honestly, whether it was a tomato rose or a crab made out of a cucumber or a carving out of a carrot or making the most amazing bechamel sauce, trust me, I wanted my bay leaves studied perfectly with my cloves. I wanted the milk beautifully seasoned. I wanted my flour and the roux cooked out beautifully. And even if I was making, a simple, strawberry tart, I wanted the pastry crisp and thin, the pastry cream with no lumps in there, and the glaze on my strawberries nice and thin that didn't clog the taste of a strawberry. So, yeah, I mean, even then, I was so meticulous. The Practical Cookery book by Victor Cesarani that we all got given as our Bible, I promise you now, that used to go to bed with me. I used to tuck it under my pillow, absorb a recipe, and then wake up the next day and think, right, read it off. And if I'd forgotten a bouquet garni, a bunch of parsley, one onion finely chopped, I would kick myself. So I pushed myself. I started at the beginning of the book and ended literally 2 years later with every recipe digested, regurgitated, and in my head.
So I want to talk to you about getting through your daily life. How do you cope with train station sandwiches, with cafe food, with the day-to-day culinary offerings that we're forced to eat?
It hurts, to be honest, whether you're on a train or whether you're at a petrol station, and these horrendous dehydrated, wrinkled sandwiches are sat there and have been there for the last 2 or 3 days with 50% off. Always a big worry when you see food 50% off at run. To be honest, it frustrates me more than anything. I could scream at the top of my voice when I see the level of laziness connected to food. Whether it's a simple fish and chips done badly with farmed fish and not using sustainable fish, which is destroying far more down the line than they'll ever know. Whether it's the most amazing simple salad, a vinaigrette that's been over-seasoned, under-seasoned, bland food there's no excuse for. I always season in small bits, small amounts of seasoning, so it doesn't need a bigger lump of seasoning at the end of it. When things are bland and you're paying money for, and the first thing you see, customers pick up the salt and pepper and they're spraying the food with salt and pepper everywhere, that's an insult to any chef. It's always a sign of a bad restaurant, because the customer just tasted it and then it needs rectifying on the back of them being inadequate, and you've got to season it. It's really bad. Between that and even watching a burger done badly, a hot dog being cooked badly, a salad being dressed, the amazing macaroni and cheese being done in a sloppy way, it really hurts. Irrespective of what I do for a living and how I cook at that living, it's so easy to do it properly, just to take a little bit extra time over it. The enjoyment level is far greater, and the end results are 10 times more pleasing.
One of the things I love is to go to Spain on holiday and just go in one of their cafes and have a tossed salad for what is probably £2 or €5 to have a bit of their Parma ham. There's nothing to it, but it just seems to taste better, and they don't seem to do anything.
Yeah, well, you've got one of the best countries, in my mind. Everyone's been, discussing France and Italy, but Spain has been at the forefront easily over the last decade. It's where I send all my guys, whether it's in the middle of Barcelona or even up northern Spain, San Sebastian. I mean, an amazing place. And Spain, again, has that culture of their tapas style and their amazing patro negro and their amazing hams and their amazing salamis and their amazing salads, and now the most amazing wine. Here, we're a little bit lazy in this country. How many times you paid 60, 70 quid, for light lunch for two of you and been bitterly disappointed because, the food has been cooked badly? Spain has been a huge attraction for me over the last 5 years, and there's so much to learn there because their natural respect for food. You've got to live well, you've got to eat well, and they eat en masse, en famille, and everything's done so right.
Moving on to you in our remaining moments, I just want to talk about how people regard you now. It's fascinating in a similar way to Simon Cowell, how maybe 5 years ago people didn't particularly like you, although they watch you. Now, they really do have great passion for you. Probably, I think, because of seeing you with your kids. They mean so much to you. How often do you get to see them these days?
Yeah, that's a good point. Very good point. Listen, they mean so much to me, and that's my foundation in life. My relationship with them is the absolute opposite to my relationship with my father. Jack and I are best mates, and as far as the girls are concerned, I'm their boyfriend. So they're going to marry me when they grow up, and I tease them. I've just got back from the States, and on the back of their half term, they were allowed to come out and spend 10 days with me. I was, sat at the Beverly Hills, and they're all sat there on their sunbeds, and they're ordering smoothies, and it's like, my God, you've got no idea how lucky you are. So we keep it real. They had $1 pocket money each and every day, and I want them to grow up with that level of respect that it may only be 50 pence, but it's $1. It's paper, it's money, respected. If you want to buy something that's going to cost you $8, then you wait 8 days to buy that. You're not getting an advance from me. So I'm over firm on my children because I'm in danger of spoiling them. So I, give, unknown to them, Tana and I give away 90% of their Christmas presents. They don't even know they've had. Mum runs a refuge in Taunton, and they don't even get rewrapped. They just don't get unwrapped. They get sent straight down to Taunton. They visit Great Ormond Street 2 days before Christmas Eve as well. And then on Christmas Day, when they know their father's going to work at Claridge's, they'll come in with me, wish all the staff happy Christmas. We'll have a late lunch, really late, 4:30, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, and then they get one present every year. And whether it's a bike, they don't sit and waste time on an Xbox because that's unhealthy for kids to sit there and get addicted to a screen and get lazy. So I like to think that they stay really real. Jack goes to football. When I'm not at football with them on Saturday morning, I get fined. The girls go to gymnast every Saturday afternoon, and they swim twice a week. So, I'm over firm, but it's all for the right reason.
I interviewed the Osbournes a couple of years ago in New York, and a lot of people criticised that programme and their life. I have never met a group of people with more love in a home than the Osbournes, and it's the same in your house. When you see those programmes, regardless of the money, it just re-emphasises the love and time and the kindness that just goes with being a family. And I think that's brilliant that you have that, and you haven't allowed this massive wealth and this massive fame to take over that. It would be easy to get distracted, wouldn't it?
It would be easy to get distracted. Fox, for instance, pay for the flights, and we all fly first class on Virgin. And I said, whoa, stop. The kids are turning right and we're turning left. I didn't fly till I was 23, so I didn't even get a chance to go on an aeroplane. If you think I'm sitting in first class with my 5-year-old daughter, my 7-year-old twins, and Megan at the age of 9, I don't want the ramifications of a spoiled childhood coming back to bite me on the backside in 7 or 8 years' time, saying, Dad, why are we on this plane with all these people? No chance. You get to the back, you sit down, you get what you're given, you pay respect, and you ask, and you give your manners across every time someone asks you a question. It's yes, please, no, thank you, yes, please, no, thank you, all the time. So, that's how I draw it back. But, this life is becoming slightly superficial because the more successful we become, the more easier things are. And all I want to do now between Tana and I is make it more humble by installing that level of respect, and that is absolutely paramount. Tana's a school teacher, so I've got a really nice balance. She writes a fabulous book on cooking for kids, but she's also a very grounded school teacher that really is a proper teacher in a way that she keeps her thumb on their head daily.
What is also interesting is the more wealthy you become and the more famous you become, the less you pay for anyway. So the money actually doesn't matter, does it?
It doesn't, but I don't say that to sound arrogant, but you get all these amazing gifts and it's wonderful. There's no two ways about that, but it's not about freeloading. If I want to take them to watch High School Musical, I want to pay for the tickets and go. It's very rewarding. If I want to go to the cinema to take them to watch Lassie at Christmas, I want to go and pay, and that's really normal. I want them to stand in a queue and buy their popcorn and get their Coke, and then they share the Coke and they share the popcorn between two of them, so they're not sat there greedily thinking this is all mine. It pays to share in life.
I want to talk to you about the new book Playing with Fire in a moment from now, but first, how do you get through your week without going crazy? Presumably you are so run off your feet you don't know whether you're in Bombay or Morecambe Bay from 1 minute to the next.
Yeah, I mean, not enough hours in the day, not enough days in the week. I work hard, though. I mean, I seriously work hard, and I work 3 times harder than anyone.
We believe you. I mean, we've seen it. Yeah. We know that. We know that you can't be here today and running 3 other restaurants at the same time without working hard.
Yeah, and so I push it to the absolute max. But I've always been taught by my mother to work as hard as you can, as young as you can, and that's exactly what I'm doing. So, if I had to slow down and start contemplating and sort of thinking about, how can I make my life easier? How do I get, a palace in the countryside? I don't really get interested in that. I enjoy my time. I'm flat out, and I don't want to stop being flat out.
In our remaining moments, let's just talk about the new book. The previous book was a massive success around the world, actually. Why did you write this next one? What has it got in it that wasn't in the last one?
Yeah, I mean, Playing with Fire is something that, I laid myself bare. I mean, everyone thinks that you're successful, multimillionaire and all that stuff, and you got any car you want and all that stuff, but I've taken huge risks, Alex, in a way that I've been in rented accommodation. I didn't have the money to pay the rent on certain occasions, and I got, investigated by the Inland Revenue, and I've had huge bills for tax to pay, and my neck's standing above the water, and I'm still standing strong, and the restaurants are making money. But I've been on the brink of disaster in terms of financial ruin. And when you look at the investment in Claridge's in New York, and so when you get criticised for what you do and you put all this money into it, it's sort of 10, 11, 12, $30 million projects that cost a lot of money that's out of your pocket. I don't have partners. I don't have any big corporate company behind it. It's all family run. My father-in-law runs the business. I run the restaurants. And, that's how it works. We take risks. So anyone that takes risks out there understands that, that's why I'm firm. That's why I'm assertive. I don't want to become personal with them. But listen, I put the money in. My ball's on the line, so it's my decision. You don't like that? Look for a new job. End of story.
I get the understanding that you'll be less concerned from a journalist saying, I don't like Gordon Ramsay, than me saying I didn't enjoy my starter.
Yeah, exactly. Listen, if it wasn't right, we wouldn't send it out the kitchen. I need criticism. We thrive on that. There's no two ways about that. A food critic today, if I had to wake up in the morning and listen to every level of criticism I've taken now at the age of 40, trust me, you'd be seeing me, witnessing me, watching me cook appallingly on Ready Steady Twat.
Perfect way to end the interview. Very finally, my grandma always says, I love that Gordon Ramsay, but why does he need to use the F word?
Yeah, good question. I get the same from my own mum, and she always tells me, look, yeah, you're in a high pressure environment. Is there any way you can not use that word? Because I didn't bring you up like that. And I say, Mum, I honestly don't mean it. It's just sometimes the Muppets I have to work with.
You're an inspiration to so many, and this book is fabulous. It's in your stores now. Thank you so much for talking to me.
My pleasure.